just reached a high position in the local court. Because of your newfound status, you are required to carry a weapon to carry out part of your ceremonial duties to defend yourself in case you are ever harangued by brigands in the dark cobblestone streets of the city at night, and in the much more likely case that you find yourself in a duel against one of the other aristocrats that live that are in the court. So we find you as you're entering the local blacksmithing guild, a structure which contains the produce of all of the city's blacksmiths, weapon crafters, and the sergeant at arms, all of those who are skilled in the creation of weaponry and armor. As you enter the building, you look around to see all of the produce, all of the metal chainmail, some impressive suits of plate armor, and the host of hundreds of weapons that line the walls and on the tables that surround you. The face of the clerk, and what probably was also one of the apprentice blacksmiths, looks up to greet you as you enter. Good day to you, sir. How may I be of service to you? I see. So you wish to purchase a weapon and armament? Excellent. Please come in and make yourself comfortable. I can ensure that you will find the highest quality weapon of your choice today. As I show you around, feel free to serve yourself some food or to partake in some of the food and drink that is lying on the welcoming table. Yes, it's right there to the side. There is some fruit, some collected apricots, apples, a couple of pears and plums, and yes, some peaches, for they are in season. And yes, actually, let's go there right now so I can calm and just to fully welcome you into our humble guild. Here, please feel free to pick up the fruit as you wish, as I pour you a drink. So you have, I assume that you are one of the court royals. Excellent. So you have achieved this position recently. Well, congratulations, sir. I hope that you will be able to remember us and our humble abode here. Here, the drinks that we have available for you. And you don't have to worry about payment. This is a simple welcoming gift, since this is also your first visit to this guild. You're more than welcome, young sir. Yeah, would you care for some? I have some wine here. That's not quite imported, but it has some age on it. So, the wine to the side. Some classic ale, if you're a simple sort of man. Some mead for the more logically inclined. Good-fashioned mead. best weapon and armor combination for your stature and experience. So, first, my good sir, what is your previous experience with weapons? What training have you had? I see. Alright, so you've had the basic saber instruction and experience with fencing. That is good, that is good. Would you say that you prefer the saber over all other weapons, or? Oh, okay. So you're searching, so do you have an instructor? Of course, I should have known so the Master of Arms will take over your instruction as you enter the castle. That's an excellent arrangement. I don't personally know him, but the Master of Arms, the sergeant at the castle, the captain of the armory, they're excellent men, some of the best of fencers. I'm sure that is the best of instruction you could find in this city. So do you wish to pursue the saber, the weapon that you have trained with? So you wish to have a look-see at the other forms and varieties that we have? As you wish, my good sir. I am more than happy to show you every weapon in the guild, for we do have quite a nice variety here. So, will you be riding, or as an additional question to your purpose in obtaining a weapon, what purpose will you be taking this weapon toward? Are you intending to go to war with the Baron anytime soon, or will you be, is this strictly for dueling and ceremonies? Very well. Alright, yes, I can understand that. So you won't be going to the battle anytime imminently soon. Yes, considering your high intellectual position within the court, yes, that would not be required of you. Yes, I can understand perfectly. So I assume because of that you won't desire a full suit of armor or chainmail or anything like that. Yes, I thought so. It's quite a large investment, for our plate armor is very fine and not particularly, shall we say, forgive me, but my tongue fails me at the moment. This way, sir, if we can look at the first of the weapons. First, let's begin with the type of weapon that most of the nobles and intellectuals within the fief that I've seen have chosen, or have more drifted towards, and they are the rapiers and cutlasses and some of your basic aristocratic fencing implements. Yes, sir, I'm sure you're very familiar with these already. They are, we do have epées and foils, but considering that they aren't necessarily of serious combat usage, well, we shall begin with the basic rapier. Just for aristocratic use again, my good sir. Oh, no, I would not. I would never bash the rapier over the cutlass or any of the other weapons, as we'll talk about in a moment. I do have a lot of respect for the rapier. It is an excellent weapon. It has definitely one of the highest defense capabilities cutlasses. So let's take a look at the rapiers first. Right here we have a Italian rapier. It is very thin, very light, has 3 rings as you see on the very basic hilt and handguard. Here, allow me to draw, and oh yes, feel free to sort it out and get a feel for the blade. Yes, I know it is. The Italians know how to make their blades light. It whistles through the air very nicely. Oh, yes, I do see what you mean. It can feel a bit long, though I assume that it matches with the Italian fencing styles much more effectively than a shorter rapier would. It's much more defense-oriented. Yes, the Italian rapier, I think, sums up the advantages and disadvantages of the weapon overall very well. Its advantages are that, well, obviously it has a phenomenal reach and excellent precision, almost surgical precision really, in keeping an opponent at bay. It's kind of like the spear in that sense. You can just, in your basic stance and on Vons, you can, it's very difficult just to get past the point. It's easy to control. However, its disadvantages are, for one, it is extremely poor in a bind and very flimsy. Yes, as you can see, it is, yes, that's right. When you, if you find yourself in a guard or in a core-on-core against another, your opponents, or if they wear or bear something a bit heavier than you do, like a very large shield, and they ram in close to you, it's very probable that your rapier will split and snap in half, which basically renders it useless, ruins the point, and takes away your lengthy advantage. So the rapier can be a risky weapon when in such quarters, in close quarters, and especially against heavily armored opponents. If you're facing an unarmored opponent, the rapier, its control of the fight really reigns supreme. But when you're facing a, say, worst case scenario against a man with plate armor, then you will easily break the blade or you can easily break the blade against it. With a full plate armor suit and chainmail, you can, the blade can just easily catch and snap. Yes, I've seen it happen. Though against what's probably more likely if you're facing some of the more rudimentary plate armor, then the rapier can actually then be an advantage, because, and again, this is only with a case of rudimentary, very simple plate armor, you might be able to lunge and penetrate the blade between the links and the cracks and the joints of just the very basic plate armor that does not have good chainmail underneath it. But overall, the rapier is best used when against unarmored opponents and against weapons that do not require close quarters. So yes, it is a very popular choice among the aristocrats, and of course it looks quite elegant, so I'm sure you would enjoy that aspect of it. So you wish to look around at the other weapons? By all means, aside. Though, as we move on from the Italian rapier, before we look at the other weapons, I would like to quickly show you another variation upon the rapier. This is a German blade. It's Dresden. It's made by Dresden Smith. It's much thicker than, or as you can see, it's much thicker and a bit more sturdy than the Italian rapiers. It still has a lot of flex to it, and it's still very light, as you can see, and of course it is. It's still a vulnerable blade, but not nearly as much so as the Italian ones. So if you wish for something slightly sturdier, but you still enjoy the rapier's control and flexibility, then you might prefer the German one. Yes, it is slightly shorter by, I believe, 1.5 or 2 centimeters. Yes, go ahead and get in your, assume your stance and lunge about and get a feel for the blade. Yes, that is correct. This blade is slightly more apt to slashing, though of course with most of the fencing instruction, the lunges, the point will hopefully be your primary tool of damage. Alright, very well. If I can see the blade again, we will move on to another weapon for you. Alright, here we have another popular choice among the nobles and aristocrats of the city is a cutlass. I particularly love this. I have a particular infatuation, you can say, with this particular weapon. It is, as you can see, it's much more durable than the rapier, shorter and thicker, and much more of a slashing weapon than the rapier is. Yes, Eric, go ahead and feel free, handle it. Get a feel for the weight in the grip and the style. Yes, it's much more of a slash. It's much heavier than the rapier. It takes a lot of exercise and to wield it effectively for long periods of time. Though hopefully you won't have to if you don't have to go to war. Well, yes, as I said, it is much shorter by at least a few inches than the rapiers. The cutlass as a whole, it's much sturdier and it does much better in a bind than the rapier, and it can do a very impressive amount of damage if you can wield it effectively. I've seen, if you're familiar, the brigands and privateers and buccaneers of the sea are quite renowned for their use of this weapon. Yes, it's almost iconic to these privateers in a way, but it's also has some popularity among the aristocracy as well. Alright, so you have finished trying to get a feel for it. I understand. Alright, so let's have a look at different. Here is this is a classic basket-hilted Scottish broadsword. I really have a particular love for this weapon, though I'm sure you're gonna hear me say that with all the weapons, as I do love secondly, after the rapier. Yes, I'm trying to show you just some of the more popular choices that the aristocracy have before moving on, not branching out to the other varieties that you might like. So yes, so you might prefer this over the other swords, but it is completely your choice. You do like the weight over the or this this broadsword over the cutlass a bit more. Okay. So if you may go ahead and lie it down, then as you wish, we can move on to some of the more sturdy swords, shall we say. Not very many of the aristocracy. I think one or two use some of these more infantry or basic weapons. But here we have your, come to think of it, really just the field knights and the men-at-arms are the ones who use these in the professional battles. Here we have the Delton hand-and-half sword. It's very sturdy, does well in a bind. It's of course, I should have mentioned this, by the way, and I'm sure this would not be an issue with wealthy aristocrats such as yourself, but of course, as you know, all of these swords require, or all swords in general require a very high amount of maintenance. After even the briefest of bouts, any sword will have a number of dents and scratches upon it that can worsen over time, and after 2 or 3 bouts, can even cause the sword to split or to snap, and it harms the efficiency of the blade in the meantime. Hence, it requires a lot of reforging and fashioning and maintenance. Swords are very high maintenance. You need to take them to the blacksmith far more often than other weapons. Yes, I understand. So, yes, and I didn't think it would be this, so cost isn't really that much of an issue. Alright, well, I just thought I'd make sure that that's what you preferred. So you do wish to still see the other weapons? Oh, that will be done. I'll make sure that you see everything that you desire. Alright. Well, going back to this weapon, here's the Delton hand-and-half sword. Some prefer these hand-and-halves, and others prefer either a two-handed or one-handed. I find most of the hand-and-halves are fairly comfortable. You can wield them, or in theory you can wield them two-handed, either do it two-handed or one-handed comfortably. And they're supposed to be a little more versatile. So, go ahead and have a feel for it and let me know what you think. Yes, it requires these hand-halves, by the way, in general, some of the more medieval long swords and these more sturdy blades require a fairly different style to sabers, and a very different style than from, say, rapiers. It's almost just, especially if, say, the combatants are wearing plate armor, it's just as much about grappling against the other armor and disarming them as it is, so you can rip off the armor and execute your opponents, as it is about sword these heavier blades. So, what do you think of the weapon? So you like the balance and the weight? Yes, that is surprising since this is much heavier than, it's heavier than even the Cutlass. Yes, I understand. So the two-handed capability does kind of balance out the weight a lot, and it is, the weight itself is balanced very nicely. Yes, I can understand that. Alright, so if we move on to these other one-handed swords, these are your basic one-handed chivalric blades intended for use on horseback. So if you're in a duel in which your opponent chooses horseback and you wish to use a blade, then this might be something that you would prefer to go with. It also, like the hand and a half dealt in, this is very sturdy, and you just go ahead and have a feel for it and see what you think. Yes, I can feel that it does feel a little slightly, how is it best put, weighted. Yes, yeah. The blade is it's slightly less balanced than, say, the hand and a half. Of course, it is intended for, say, mounted combats when you're more arcing and riding with your horse and arcing in that circular fashion. Oh, yes, I'm sure you've seen it. You've seen the knights practice that way. The way they slice into, or they arc in a circular fashion and slice into their opponents. Yes, yes. Well, if you're done with that, we can move on to the full-fledged two-handed swords. And we have a nice variety here for you to take a look at. First, we have the Scottish claymores, claymores, both the Lowlander and Highlander models. Either you can prefer, or whichever. The only real difference is in the hilt design. We also have the German Zweihander. This, by the way, even though it is rarely used, it is extremely popular among the aristocrats. Just the way it looks, and I mean, you have to admit that is a beautiful weapon. Though, of course, let's emphasize the fact this is one of our more expensive blades. Yes, that is 7 feet long. It is massive, but it's very ornate and very practical in its sturdy design, and of course requires a heavy maintenance. But the dirge that you see about halfway down the blade, it's intended for the other fencing or holding style when you're you hold the dirge, which is halfway down the blade with one hand, and you have your other hand on the hilt. Yes, almost like a glaive, but it really just depends upon your preferred method. We have other two-handed swords, an English model over here, but yeah, just go ahead and have a feel between them. And I see. So you don't think something this large would be your style? I understand perfectly. Well, that's no problem. Would you like to see some of the other weapons? Would you like to start branching out and to see the other variety of what we have? Okay, excellent then. Well, if you'll step just this way, I will lead you to our axes. So, and this is a very unconventional, a fairly unconventional weapon for aristocrats. I don't know any that really wield them, aside from our knights, of course. I've seen a few knights that are very fond of the axe. But go ahead and let's just have a quick look and see if what you think of them. Now, the first advantages and disadvantages that we should talk about when looking at these axes are, well, first, obviously, its defense. The defense of all these axes really is they have a very poor defense. Their guard is very low, so normally those who choose to wield axes are very well armored normally. That's why the knights that usually choose these weapons are very well armored anyway, so they don't have to worry as much about having a weapon with a good defense. So since you don't wish to be wearing a lot of armor, you may want to forgo the axe just for that purpose. Okay, so you'd still, even though you probably won't choose one, you still would like to have a look-see. I understand. That's now, who knows? You might just really enjoy the feel of these axes, and I'd like to try them out. So, if you look over here, we have your basic horseman's axe. It's one of the lighter kinds, and it was one-handed, of course. It's very long, or relatively long. A nice blade at this end, you can see, and a pommel on the other end. So go ahead and give it a few swings, or have you had? You said you had saber training, but have you had any? You haven't. Okay, all right. Well, go ahead and just have a feel for it. Yes, I can understand. You don't really like how all the weight is kind of towards one end. Yes. So you just prefer the feel of the sabers. That's what I was thinking you might prefer. So, go ahead and, I guess we can lay axes to the side since you're not going to be going in that direction. Alright, well, let's have a look at some of the other weapons that we have. Our maces and warhammers are right over this way. As you can, we have a nice variety here as well. We have our double flange German maces right here. When the cavalry do use maces, these are normally the ones they use. Very sturdy. Obviously, all of these maces, and the axes, by the way, as well, are very easily. They require very little maintenance. They're normally much cheaper than the swords. Since you're not choosing the axes, that doesn't really matter. But this applies to the maces and warhammers as well. They're very cheaply maintained weapons. Very good weapons. Alright, so, okay, you can go ahead and get a feel for the German maces. Yes, they do have very nice flanges, and they're fairly ornate. Very nicely weighted. Weighted enough to place very excellent leverage in the blow, yet balanced enough not to feel too unwieldy and out of control. Though I do have to emphasize that the using maces and warhammers does cut down its defense is not also, like the axes, they're just not as capable as swords in keeping up a strong defense. But, I mean, it is your choice, and since you'll receive the training in whatever weapon you choose, ultimately, it's completely up to you. Okay. So you do kind of like the feel of these. Alright, well, why don't you try this English Warhammer? It has a nice prong in the back, and it looks small, the front of the hammer, but I assure you it can be quite effective, especially against plate armor. This hammer can really ring anyone's bell, as it has a much better reach than the others as well. Yes. Well done. And those blows look very vicious. Alright. So you do prefer the German flanged mace? Okay. Alright. That's... Well, it is a good choice. But, so you don't think... Okay, so you don't think you wish it as your primary weapon, though? Okay, well, I've seen many nobles and many that use several weapons, but aside from their main sword. So yeah, that's perfectly fine. Well, before you make your final decision, let's have a look at some daggers and short swords that you might take a liking to. So over here, to go through the list real quick, we have Scottish Sikian doves and dirks. We have some Italian poniards. What else do we have? A few Alpine daggers. Oh, and some of these. Well, just your, shall we say, generic music. They're practically shanks, really, but they get the job done, and they're very concealable off in this way. And the blades, like the poniards, these daggers and short swords, are much more ornate and might be something that you desire. So, okay, I see. So, you do like the way this one looks? Yes, they are very nice. Delton, yes, these German ornate daggers do have very large hilts, so you might like the way that they work, the way that they are wielded. Alright, so you don't think, okay, yeah, so you don't think you'll be using these daggers or short swords for as main weapons? Okay, alright. Well, before we go back to the short swords, or to the swords, let's take a quick look at some shields and armor, something that you can improve your overall defense and styles with. Well, first of all, as we are moving towards the shields, which weapon do you think you're kind of starting to gravitate towards? Of course, after everything we look at, you would probably stick with what you're familiar with. So, the basic rapier. I understand, yes. A very popular choice among the aristocrats. So, would you enjoy, or would you like to supplement the rapier's defense capability with a buckler or some sort of shield? Alright, so you would like to look at it. Okay. Well, right over choose a full-length teardrop or solid shield or round shield if you prefer. But normally those who choose the rapier stick with something a bit more smaller and flexible, or something a bit smaller and more maneuverable, such as at most the target, though more usually the buckler. So here we have the buckler, just a basic 16-inch, and then a 9-inch over here. So go ahead and look, just have a feel between them and see which one you're a little more apt towards. Okay. So just right off the bat, you would like something a little kind of in between. Yeah, I can see the 16-inch really is a bit, it's practically a target, really. So the 12-inch is still a little too large. Okay, so you think you'll stick with the 10-inch? Okay, I see, the fluted steel buckler. Oh, I love that. Yes, I said you'd hear me say that about all these weapons and armor. I just really love all of these implements of combat. But yes, no, seriously, that is that will work for you, and especially in tandem with the rapier. Okay, so you don't know if you'll use it all the time, but you'd still like to take it to the training to. Okay, it's an excellent decision, I see. So it's good to bring it along anyway, just in case. Yes, yes. All right. So in terms of the rapiers, so I will go ahead and carry the buckler for you. But between the rapiers, which one would you prefer? Right off the bat, do you wish the thinner Italian blade or the more sturdy and capable, sturdy German blade? So you, okay, so you're going with the Italian. Very well. And would you prefer a ringlet hilt or the cup? Okay, so you wish the ringlet. I see, so you're going all flexible and light here. I'm sure you can impale quite a bit with that, especially after a lot of training, or a little more training with the sergeant at arms. All right, well, go ahead and if you can take your blade and with the hilt. So, do you wish to purchase it here, or would you like to leave a check and have it delivered to your residence at the court? So you'll leave a check. Understood. Well, right this way, sir. Allow me to fetch the book. And, have you run out of cider? Allow me to fill it immediately, sir. I'll take it to the side here to refill it as I'm getting out the book. Our ledgers. Okay, to the side, and before we are flipping through it, let's make sure you're filled up again, and there we go. Alright, I'm going to lay this to the side, and there's your glass, my good sir. Drink up, please, enjoy, it's on the house. Alright, so as I am looking through here, alright, here we go. So, would you please sign your name here, sir? Yes, it's, we do use a quill and ink here. Go ahead, and if you prefer the black or the blue ink, it's whatever your preference is. Yes, these are. I do enjoy using these owl feathers. Oh, excuse me, these turkey feathers. Yes, this turkey feather, very, very stout, capable. It's a very fine signature, sir. So, I'll pull the ledger to the side and finish a few more notes. And done. Alright. So, if you'll allow me to close the book. Okay. Thank you very much for your business, sir. I will, when do you wish for your equipment to be delivered to your room? Or to your chateau, shall I say? Oh, tomorrow, I see. So you will be training soon. Excellent. Well, if I may wish you a second congratulations on attaining your post. Why, thank you, sir. Please know that this guild and its contents are entirely at your service.